wrestling art with Chris Things.
Ray! Do the hammerlock. I do the hammerlock. Ray! Do the hammerlock, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the hammerlock.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Wrestling Art with Chris Things. I am Chris Things, your host this week and every week. And we made it back, episode 15. Man, we're doing this. This is a match of the week edition. This is one where I pick the match that I thought was my favorite thing that I watched that week. I do a little art of it, and we have a bit of a chat about it. That's the thing, you know. And what's happened here is we've made a call. We made a call to go on these weeks after the ones where I have a artist interview, our Wrestling Art Curator edition. Man, really, if you haven't listened to that one, listen to that Helen Hunter interview. That was good stuff, I think. But yeah, we're starting a thing where, so we don't have to have 2 episodes a week, we're doing a bit of a double header. That's what we've got here for you today. And I think this is really fun because we've been able to mash up, put together 2 matches that are so completely different. But that's kind of the magic of it, you know? So I think these 2 particularly, a match from 1984 and a joshi match from 2023. Very, very interesting contrast here today. So I think that's fun. I've got the great esteemed gentleman, Mr. Jaims Vanderbeek, back. We'll get all into that a little bit later, but for now, this is our Chris Things intro monologue, where I give you a little bit of a chat-ski about what I've got going on. And this has sort of started to become a bit of a Way of the Blade themed thing as we have a lead up to the release of the new book, the AEW edition of Way of the Blade. We're looking back at some of my favorite matches, some of my favorite illustrations from the original Way of the Blade book, which has turned out to be a pretty fun thing because, I've been sharing these things and had certain matches that are really seeming to get a great response. I guess there's some people out there who didn't actually get the original book and they're seeing these for the first time. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, last week we spoke about that amazing Necro Butcher Samoa Joe match, which is continuing to get a just delightful response. Very happy about that. But then this week we had another fantastic match, one of my all-time favorites, just tremendous joshi match from 1996, featuring Combat Toyota versus Megumi Kudo in barbed wire exploding current death match from FMW. That, my word, there's just nothing like it. I said it. I don't think there's been anything that could come close to replicating the spectacle, but also like the emotion of it. And the high drama. That's what I really think these amazing FMW death matches are so great at. It's not just about doing as many big gnarly spots as we possibly can in a short amount of time in a gonzo kind of fashion. No, they do a beautiful job of leading up to this stuff, of just hitting that note at the exact right time. And it's beautiful. It's like watching a fantastic theater production, an amazing movie. Anything that's like a piece of art. Like that's what this is. in the form of women's professional wrestling with exploding electrical current barbed wire. Either way, I love it. People seem to have dug the illustrations. I'm stoked about that. If you'd like to check that out, you check it out on the old Instagram there. But if you would like to have that bad boy up on your wall, christhings.com.au. Check it out. As little as 25 bones will get that lovely high quality print of that sent out to you, and you'll be able to get that up on your wall. So on that note, if there's any other Weatherblade matches that I haven't posted yet onto the website that you've been having a hankering for, swing me a message. We can do this. Yeah. But so outside of the book, I guess the big thing that I'm starting to think about now is as an artist, there's some things that we put on the back burner, right? There's some things that we kind of like, all right, that's important, but I've got current commissions to get through. I've got this, that, the other. So we put them on the back burner, but it's important stuff. So for me, I've identified that. Next thing on the chopping block, I've started thinking, my portfolio. I have not really put much thought into that or updated that in quite some time. So that's basically been what I've gone back onto this week. Looking at that, refreshing that up, because I think as a illustrator, especially to make those next steps that I'm wanting to make, I think that's something that needs to be done. So that's what I've been on to. I'm excited about it. A little bit nervous, to be honest. Sending a portfolio out to everyone for their thoughts. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see how we go. But I mean, that's my little moment of zen for all my art friends out there. If there's been something that's been, on your back for a little while that you're like, hey, get out of here, I'm busy. Sometimes I think it's good to be like, you know what? This is next on the chopping block. Let's get this done. So that's been it. I don't know if we'll end up probably putting that on the website. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's about it for today. I think it's time to talk about our matches of the week in our double main event, double header edition. Let's throw over to Chris in the studio. It's basically the same studio that I have here. That's a little bit not quite true, but anyway, let's throw over to Chris and Jeremy. Take it away, guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We have a familiar voice back on the line here, returning special guest co-host, man known the world over as Jaims Vanderbeek, but known to me as my dear friend Jeremy. Welcome to the show, my dude.
All right. Hey, everybody. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me once again to chat some professional wrestling.
Always. Thanks for making the time for watching some matches and doing some chat skis, my dude.
Yep.
Always
That's what I'm here to do.
appreciate it.
Aim to please.
Oh, you do a great job.
And you picked in a very eclectic mix of matches today. They have nothing to do with one another, not even on the same continent. It's pretty wild.
This is so good. So this is now our first double header special double main event episode of the match of the week, where I thought, when we have these artist interviews, it generally in the past has led to me having to do 2 episodes in a week. I think that's maybe a little bit too much. I thought, why don't, for the next week, we can just do 2 match of the weeks. And then I thought this would be great because it'll result in some really weirdly contrasting matches, and I don't think we could have got two more weirdly contrasting matches than this first week.
No, actually, the only thing I'd say similar is maybe that Hashimoto and Terry Gordy have a similar wrestling style.
I mean, they're both awesome.
Yeah, total brawlers and just pick you up and throw you on your head if they need to.
Yeah, so good. And so, yeah, for everybody, our two matches that we'll be discussing today are Sareee versus Chihiro Hashimoto from May of last year, from the first ever Sareee-ISM Chapter One show from Shinjuku Face in Tokyo, Japan. And a match from World Class Championship Wrestling from 1984, one of the few title defenses of NWA World Heavyweight Champion Kerry Von Erich, his first title defense, as it would be, against the amazing Terry Bam Bam Gordy. And my gosh, these matches, again, have very little in common, but I love them both so much.
I will agree 100% on all points. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect watching the. I'm not going to jump ahead too much, but the Terry and the Kerry match, because I didn't watch much of that stuff back in the day, especially not a lot of Kerry Von Erich stuff. I remember him from WWF days. So
the Texas Tornado.
Yeah, I didn't need to go back any further and see any other stuff before he was any good. You know what I mean? When he got the WWF, that's prime Kerry. No, but yeah, great picks here.
Man, it's something else. Hey, like when a lot of people, I think, similar to yourself, would think of Kerry Von Erich from that WWF run as the Texas Tornado, when motherfucker only had 1 foot. But he was still doing a bloody good job for only having 1 foot, I would say. But I
had no fucking clue the guy only had 1 foot. Like, you go back and look, you're like, well, I guess you can kind of tell, but not really. Guy's getting around pretty good with just 1 foot.
Testament to a dude's just like insane drive and everything like that. But like getting to see him like at this point, which I would say is like his absolute prime, 1984.
Dude, the guy was ripped.
Oh
my
man.
goodness.
And yeah, we'll talk a bit more about it later, but just like seeing how he moves and the amount of like dynamism that he has with everything, and just like the electric kind of like charisma that he does everything with, just such a treat.
Yep, agreed.
But yeah, we have one joshi wrestling match, one current joshi wrestling match, and one match from 1984 from Fort Worth, Texas. So this is.
It was cool to see the Sareee and Hashimoto stuff, because we've covered multiple matches of theirs in the past, and I've always enjoyed both of these ladies' work. They have great chemistry together. Each match almost like. It's always a treat because they do something different each time.
I'd say they're two of one another's greatest like career rivals, career opponents. And yeah, we talked a lot about it like when we've been watching back in the day when we had the Grown Men Watch This Shit podcast. We spent a lot of time covering Sendai Girls.
Yeah, because they're badass. It got to the point where, like, are we the creepy guys who only talk about Japanese ladies wrestling? No, because we're talking about the wrestling, not how great they look in their outfits. But yeah, dude, I like how this started out with kind of alluding to her run in the WWE, where they kind of tried to make her super gimmicky, and she came back and like dropped all that, cut her hair, and now she's a badass again.
Yeah, so I didn't really get to see any of her run in NXT. All I know was that apparently she was saddled with some terrible quasi-racist Sailor Moon gimmick.
At first she didn't have it, and then all of a sudden she was gone for a while, and then she came back, doing the Sailor Moon thing, and I was like, well, I mean, marketable, sure. In great taste, no, probably not. Like, seriously, they could have made toys if it had gotten over, but yeah, it's so hackneyed, and here we're gonna make you a Sailor Moon because you're Asian.
Did they just kind of like, was it sort of dead on arrival, and that they were like, okay, this clearly was not a good idea, or what happened?
It disappeared rather quickly, as far as I remember. She originally just came out as herself, and had an awesome match. She does that low drop kick that when they're on the bottom rope where it looks like it just kills the person because it probably does. And it looked awesome, and then all of a sudden she was gone, and I was so excited. Like I thought, I was like, Sareee and NXT, this can't miss. And of course, they always prove me wrong.
Oh man, I was honestly like so sad of two losses of like our this Sendai girls group that was like some of the best wrestling going at the time, some of the best women's wrestling I've ever seen. Like between, I think my two favorites were definitely Sareee and Meiko Satomura. Was like the two, just like, anytime they're doing anything, it was always going to be great. And then first, I can't remember which came first, but yeah, we lost both of them to NXT. And yeah, then thankfully I was like, holy shit, Saree's back. And then this was actually her comeback match, her first match back in Japan under an event that she promoted under her own name. It was called Sareee-ISM. At Shinjuku Face, lovely venue, that one. But yeah, man, it's so much fun, and in this this sort of, there's a little hype video kind of thing going into the match where they even like show her Sailor Moon attire or whatnot in a locker, and she just says, "Thank you."
Yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, oh, she's just gonna lean into it. I didn't know it was actually her own thing that was going on, so that's interesting. And I love the name Sareee-ISM, like all about me. And she picks, of course, as we spoke about a moment ago, one of her best opponents to headline the show, I imagine, with.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of a more fitting opponent for her to, return home to Japan, have her first match back in Tokyo against. Like, I was so stoked when I remember seeing this first announced. So, and then here we go, her and Chihiro Hashimoto. So I guess a lot of kind of pressure going into it after all this time and all of the expectation of being like, oh, is she still any good, can she still go, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I imagine so. And then also Hashimoto looked like in great shape. You know what I mean? Like slimmed down a bit, as far as I could remember, and always a badass. So
still just a power
tank.
tank machine, man.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Chihiro Hashimoto.
And I liked her. I like the aesthetics of this show because the song that she came out to was totally badass.
It was a banger.
And then she came out wearing looked like she skinned Sully from Monsters Inc. and decided to wear him.
That is such a great way of putting it.
It was so cool. I was like, what the hell is this? It's badass. She's like a gigantic furry. It was cool without the head. But yeah, it was super cool. I was like, that's a great presentation.
Yeah. And then Saree's music too, I thought was like super cool. Totally got into the vibe of it. Seemed like she had like almost like a bit of like an emotional moment kind of on the way to the ring of this big return to Japan. I'm just reading now. Guess who her last opponent was in NXT prior to this match?
Oh, hang on, let me think. Fallon Henley.
I don't know who that is.
I was just a random NXT girl. Was it Tiffany?
Close. It was Mandy Rose.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. Mandy actually, I'm not going to say she's the greatest, but toward the end of NXT, she got pretty good as far as decent in the ring and pretty good on character. Kind of like Nikki Bella eventually came around pretty decent in the ring, I always thought.
Right.
But yeah, that's hilarious. Mandy and Sareee.
Yeah.
The drop kick probably was gnarly. She probably fucking took her face off.
Well, I don't know if they'd stopped her doing that by that point, but it's telling me that Sareee had to put her over in 5 minutes. So.
Oh goodness gracious.
Yeah, I can see why that was her last match in. Man, almost
that's when
year.
Mandy was a champ. That was when Mandy was champ, I think.
Man. But I remember being so excited for this big return. And then so we go into it. The whole crowd is basically there because it's sort of like Saree's comeback show, I guess. So everyone's ready to go, and then man, just from like the start of this, it just like almost like they went straight back to it. But then I don't know.
Reminded me how mean Sareee is. Like they didn't let her be as mean in NXT, but I remembered in Sendai, she's just like mean, like kicking her in the head, like it's just gnarly, yelling at her, cussing her out the entire time. It seems it's like Sareee is a badass.
Yeah, there was almost like a thing early on in the match where it's like she definitely is a badass, but early on I was noticing, I don't know whether you sort of picked up on this, but in the early bit of the match it was like some of her strikes and stuff, they were not the same Sareee that I remember from watching in Sendo Girls. It was almost like that that performance center remolding kind of thing had done its work, and I was like, what have they done? What have they done to Sareee?
You're not actually hitting her. No. But yeah, I guess I didn't really take time to compare because I was just kind of excited about the moment, but I guess you could be right on that, dude. Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I mention it is because it was so satisfying throughout the match. Like the way I sort of like watched this match and the way it felt was it was almost like as the match went on, it was like she was throwing off the shackles, and then we saw like the real, stiff badass Sareee come out, and you saw those like these start out strikes where you're just like, oh, what is this? And then it became just these like soul punishing blows that we're more used to. It was wonderful.
Yep. There was, I think, 100% right on that, especially the early going. There was at one point where I noticed she picked it up a notch was when Hashimoto was on the ground. She literally came over, just stomped on her head like while she was on the ground. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty mean. And it was pretty much all an even match until toward there was a point where early in the match where there's like in a vertical suplex position, and then Hashimoto just powers her up and like holds her and then delivers her through the mat with a power slam. It was a beauty. Did you remember that particular moment?
Oh my gosh.
Goodness gracious.
I just all of Hashimoto's suplexes in this match, dude. Just like from the power slam to like there's a gut wrench that she does where she just is that the one you're talking about where it looks like she just powers her right through the mat?
Well, yeah. They're basically in a vertical suplex position. Like she's gonna pick her up, but then she just turns her around and puts her the other way, and puts her legs toward the air. And then she just holds her brief momentarily, and then drives her down. It's pretty early in the match. It's like the first big impactful move.
Right. Man, but and then it's just like strength to strength on these suplexes, just some beautiful stuff. But then, I mean, later in the match, as we'll see Sareee as well, she is not to be outdone on suplexes. She can throw a beautiful suplex herself.
Yep. There's some were pretty gnarly on the landing, like where Hashimoto landed fully on one shoulder. That doesn't look fun by any means.
The early part of this match, I want to make sure to put over. I think my favorite part was when it sort of got to a bit more grappling and sort of like grounded sort of grappling. And it was kind of like that thing where it wasn't sort of clean and didn't look sort of like almost I guess a cooperative affair. It kind of looked, there was a point where I remember like Hash just sort of like stopped her momentum and then just kind of like planted down on her, and then just, I don't know, there was something that was so great I thought about that kind of back and forth just struggle wrestling, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. There was a moment like that where it was Sareee had like almost a triangle in, like pretty much like, oh, it wasn't like locked in super tight, but they were basically in a triangle, and Hashimoto just had to power up. Yeah, there was a constant struggle, and it felt like a real fight, not super clean where everything is like, all right, we do this transition directly into this one because that's what happens in a wrestling match. This is just they were grappling, they were fighting.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to see because, I mean, a lot of time outside of sort of the joshi wrestling that I watch, and to be honest, I haven't actually got a chance to watch as much like joshi wrestling as I used to. So a lot of
Agreed.
all I was seeing was sort of like a lot of your AEW women's wrestling kind of stuff, and there's some good stuff there, but also like, not to shit on people, but some not so good stuff. And I feel like overall, like a lot of it's just so refreshing to see this because of that kind of like bit more realistic struggle, and that just being the polar opposite of what I'm used to seeing of like your AEW women's wrestling, if you know what I mean.
Oh, 100%. Like, and then even you probably don't watch WWE even much, but their stuff is so formulaic. It's ridiculous. Like, some of the girls are good too. It's just they are taught this one particular style of wrestling match, so it's pretty much always the same.
Yeah.
Uh, the triangle move that I was talking about a moment ago, it ended when Hashimoto powered her all the way up and took her into the corner, like rushed her into the corner,
Mhm.
and then Sareee held on and she did like an arm bar over the top
Oh
rope. So it was like
yes.
so good. I'm like, beautiful.
I remember that. So great. And then they sort of brawled onto the outside for a bit, or we had the big crossbody of Sareee into the outside.
Oh yeah, that
And
was so rad.
I don't know if you have a note about this, but this entire point when they're on the outside, the ring announcer.
I was actually just gonna say, what is up with this guy? I was gonna say, Chris, I got a question. Like, is he doing play by play? Because officially he's just yelling stuff, and then he got the counting. And when he got the counting, it was hilarious. And then also during that entire time, did you notice this one lady who's like, she must be part of the ring crew or something like, but she's like walking around with a towel and like wiping down the back of Sareee at one point. I'm like, I'm not sure what is going on with this lady.
Oh
But
yeah.
what is the announcer guy? It was crazy.
He definitely had his pet pills before this show or this match.
Yeah, he was into it.
My gosh. But yeah, he was just screaming with so much enthusiasm. It was the best
I
thing
literally have
ever.
my notes as, what was this dude yelling on the PA? What is going on?
I think for the most part, it was sort of like a lot of the time in Japanese wrestling, when people are on the outside, the ring announcer will like warn the crowd basically for their safety to, stay out of the way, stay in your seat, be careful kind of thing. But man, he was screaming like bloody Abdullah the Butcher was coming for these people.
Get out of the way. Yeah, at our shows, at SOS, we have a bit before the show starts. We let everyone know, hey, if you see any competitor coming at you from any direction, it's your job to get the fuck out of the way. And the whole crowd all together says, get the fuck out of the way. It's the best.
I love that. Tremendous. But yeah, then the actual count out part. Man, I have not heard someone count with so much enthusiasm in, I think, my lifetime. This was,
and especially because when he got to 9, I'm like, oh man. I was like, 10. Okay, this is a 20 count situation. This guy gets to count all day.
Man.
What's even better about that is like I'm like laughing about that, and then the wrestling itself starts kicking off, because that's when all the lariats start coming at Sareee, and she's like kicking them, like she's actually kicking Hashimoto's arm to get away from him. But yeah, that was badass.
Oh man, when she starts working over the arm, there's a bit specifically when Sareee like catches her for the Fujiwara. That was just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was almost like, the best way I can describe it is like a far more like impactful and like all go no show version of like a La Mystica kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she just looked like she fucking killed her and put her arm out of its socket on this thing. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's been so quick. The impact was so sudden. Yes. And then there's a point in the other match when Terry Gordy does an arm drag where it's so sudden and quick, just like that. You're just like, all of a sudden, oh shit, that motherfucker's on the ground.
Yeah. So funny, the little similarities and contrasts. Later on, please remind me of the suplex thing as well. That was another thing that I think we had in the second one. But man, I think this was the exact point, like you're saying, where it really like got up to next gear, and we started seeing, like I was saying, those sort of like early strikes that were maybe not the most impactful. They fell to the wayside, and we just got like full oomph Sareee back. And man, I was just so happy to see it. Like, I remember watching this when I watched it for the first time, and this was where I was like going from, sometimes you watch a match that you hear is like, or you expect it's going to be really good, and then sometimes it can just be not quite it. And that's almost like up
Like
to
still good, but not like the
yeah.
greatest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and like early on, that was sort of like where I was dreading that match was kind of going. Like I was saying, that sort of like performance center reprogramming kind of thing. And then at this point, I was just like, had such a joy inside of me to where I was just like, yeah, fucking Saree's back, dog.
Yeah, the Fujiwara, actually, we were just talking about, she actually kind of like rolled over where she had her kind of back and holding both arms, kind of like of a reverse Rings of Saturn almost. It
So
was
cool.
wild. Yeah.
Man, and this was exactly that point, like you were saying, with those big asshole stomps that we know Sareee is like good for.
All over like just clomp, clomp, like full impact. Yeah, it's gnarly.
And big Hash can take it.
Yeah, 100%. But there was a one point where she didn't want it no more because Sareee went to go up, and Hashimoto like literally leapt across the ring to pick her ankle before she could climb up to the ropes again. I was like, that's awesome. That's desperation showed at a match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's really what I felt from this point on in the match. Like the whole rest of the thing was both women were like wrestling with such like complete desperation, like just really like going all out, like they needed this kind of thing. And I don't know, I mean, I guess that sort of like desperation and I don't know, sometimes you don't see it in matches again, like where this was just like so refreshing, and I was like, man, this girl's fucking going for it, man.
100%. Yeah, that's why I've always like, I wish I could make more time in my life to watch the Sendai Girls, but I have too much fun making fun of the other stuff. It's, you know what I mean? Like this
That's
is like
fair.
enjoying some delicious dessert rarely. Like it's too rich to enjoy all the time. You know what I mean?
It's like the thing where you don't want to have like a proper like dry aged steak every night of the week, or else you won't
No,
appreciate it.
no. Yeah, it's a good line of bullshit, I suppose. Also, there's Hashimoto. This was coming up right after that. Hashimoto was fighting off a sunset flip power bomb that Sareee tried to pull on her, and she was literally holding on so tightly to the ropes. I was like, yeah, that's strength. That woman is a strong individual.
Yeah. And she like uses that strength too. It's not like she's got that functional strength, but like because the match is so like cooperative or whatever that you couldn't even really tell. Like she has multiple moments where you just like see, man, she is just like you're saying, a tank.
Yep. And this is when they started also, again, more into the just slapping the shit out of each other.
Man, that was so good. That was when I was like, okay, we're going from next level to next level.
Yep. And hey, okay, so it's probably maybe jumping up a little bit, but Hashimoto did a crazy slam that kind of looked like an air raid crash or a kryptonite crunch, whatever, but without the head trapped. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
What is that? Or is that just she was just throwing her?
I think that's actually like it's sort of a traditional like amateur wrestling throw.
Okay.
I remember I briefly did like a little foray at like the local PCYC after I couldn't like do pro wrestling anymore. I was like, oh, maybe doing a bit of like Greco-Roman or something would be a bit of fun. I was far too crippled at that point to do that, but that was one of the things that I remember learning actually. So yeah, it's like, and I think that's because Hash has such a great amateur wrestling background from what I've told.
Sure.
But yeah, that was so sick. And then there was also, did you notice the amazing? There was a great roll up by Sareee. It was like, do you remember we watched much Shocker back in the day.
Shocker, the luchador guy.
Yeah,
I maybe a couple matches, sure.
perhaps in his TNA run. But
Yeah, that's 100% where it would have been.
so this was actually his signature pin, his signature sort of roll up capture sneaky pin that she broke out. That was like so sick.
You know what? I 100% think I've seen him do it before, if I know what you're talking about, but I fucking must have missed it. I may have been typing something out. But hey, nice nod. I wonder if it's just something that she picked up in her run, or she specifically had seen Shocker do it. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Or watch an old TNA.
maybe she was a big fan of CMLL back in the day. I don't know.
Could have been.
Oh man, apparently Shocker is not doing too great these days.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah,
I think we made it in the past. Some bad stuff happened with people when we mentioned them on the podcast, so we got to be careful. Don't. Hey, there is also. I may be jumping ahead too much. Let me see here. Let me read my notes real quick. There is yeah. So there was this crazy forearm exchange, and then there was a huge lariat to the back of the head of Hashimoto, and then huge German. And then by Hashimoto, who planted Sareee with a power bomb as well. Oh my goodness! Like it was just a series of power moves.
That German specifically, it was like a release German, and just she got so much air and just dumped her onto her head. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And then without even thinking, not going off of a pin off of that, picks her straight up, sick power bomb.
Yeah. Like this is where I go into murder mode.
Yeah, like that was it.
Those it's like a gargoyle clutch suplex that Ahmed Johnson kind of used to do, and Sareee did 2 of those. I don't think Ahmed Johnson was trying to do it as deliberately on the head. I think he just did it on accident. These ones looked intentional.
Dude, shout out to how great Ahmed Johnson was. He gets a lot of hate these days, especially from opponents that didn't enjoy working with him particularly.
Well, that's understandable. But as a fan, I was like, he looks like he's murdered him.
He was turns sick.
Out, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, I loved him. It's great. Yep. I'd love to see Ahmed Johnson come out of retirement for a Joey Janela's spring break. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Bring back a Pearl River plunge for some motherfuckers.
Yeah, I don't know what that throw is called. I think I heard one time it was called like a gargoyle, but I'm not 100% sure.
Hey, that sounds badass. If that's not it, it should be.
Yep, we're dubbing it here on the podcast Gargoyle Suplex.
Man, and then when Sareee gets back on top and she nails her with, I think in all of the women's wrestling I've ever seen, Sareee definitely has the just nicest Uranage suplex that I've ever seen. Now, just regardless of gender, outside of bloody Hiroshi Hase, I think this is the coolest Uranage suplex I've ever seen.
That's what I'm talking about. So that's a Uranage when because normally it's like a rock version, but it's kind of like twisting. But this one's like she's throwing him over her head and then like snapping it down.
Yeah, well, that's like the legit sort of proper Hase version. Where you sort of
we did not rename it. We did not rechristen the name.
The Uranage
but yeah, those versions of Uranage
gargoyle,
were gnarly because that's what Ahmed tried to do, and he it looked like he was murderizing people.
But she did 2 of them, dude. Like
right on her head. It was like
the first
deliberately
one wasn't good enough, but that second one, I was like, oh my gosh, and that was where I was like, okay, I think that needs to be the illustration in question for the match. And it was again that sort of tricky thing where you're waiting for the exact right framed one, and I think both of those Uranage suplexes in the match on watching the video of it, they weren't quite the best angle of it. But then I came across a photograph that was taken during this match that it was.
Oh, that's sneaky.
Yeah, so that was like an even better, I guess, reference to go by, and it just caught the best angle. So I was just honestly trying to live up to how sick that photo was with the illustration. But yeah, man, this was again the point where you're just like, this is probably the most joy that I've gotten from watching a women's wrestling match in so long.
Yeah, and all I thought was like, man, I wish people who saw Sareee in NXT got to appreciate her at this level, because
Yeah.
like it was not at anything in comparison. And maybe it's because she has to be facing somebody as good as Hashimoto, and that's what really brings her up to that level. Or they just had a governor on her so much that she couldn't run, you know. But yeah, fucking tremendous match. And that wasn't even the end. Like after she drops him on her head twice, then she does a beautiful bridging German. And again, picking up Hashimoto and doing a beautiful bridging German is pretty impressive.
Man, that like a proper Takayama Everest style German suplex with just one of the most beautiful bridges that you would ever see is just like such a thing of beauty. Like and the way they led into that as well with the whole finishing sequence, and it all had like so much sort of desperation and like the counters of it, and oh man, I can't say enough good things about it. For everyone who hasn't seen this match, again, I'm assuming that you have by the point of listening to this show, but if not, bloody go out of your way to see it. It's honestly incredible. And then on top of that, they actually have a rematch that happened just a couple of weeks ago in January. That you can purchase on Saree's website. You might be able to get it elsewhere, but I think it's always good to support when it's like sort of an independent thing like that. And she's putting on this show herself. So yeah, I'd highly recommend if you enjoyed this, to get that one, because I heard that the rematch is perhaps even better. I don't know. I'll check it out in the future. We'll see how we go. We may talk about it in the future.
Ooh,
great stuff. But yeah, I just that was such a fun match, and by the end, and I thought I want to make sure to say like the actual finish, because you'd think this is Saree's big return to Japan, right? Her big triumphant return after like a not so great run in NXT. So you'd think, all right, she's going to start out, hot, get a big win to start off of her first Sareee-ISM show. But no, it's Hashimoto going over, which I thought was so clever, or like not even clever, but it was the right thing to do, because in a way it's like Saree's been away, she's been in NXT, she's been away from like top level competition, while like Hashimoto has been like still at the absolute top of her game in Sendo Girls. She's become their like world champion. She's doing rad stuff, I think, with Stardom as well. So yeah, of course Hash should get that big win when Saree's first back. I thought that was really good.
And yeah, especially also if you're trying to compel people to come back to the rematch, that's a way to go.
Yeah.
Saree's got to get that win back. And honestly, the first time I tried to watch this, I was tired. I'm like, Chris, I can't pay proper respects to this match. I need to watch it over again. Please allow me some time. And yeah, once I watched it the second time, I'm like, yeah, that's some good shit. Right into my vein, please.
Absolutely. But yeah, I my friend Bradley, who was on the show previously, when we talked about that low-key Kenta match from ROH back in the day, he since has watched this match as well, and he was not familiar with either of the girls, but he was like, that was bloody awesome. So I love that it appeals to all sorts.
Yep. And I just enjoy a mean Sareee just yelling and cussing. I think at one point it appeared she gave the crowd a middle finger. Probably not though, but she was just all riled up. Maybe the number one finger.
So good. So good. And now we are on to the point of crossover on the show, where we now transport ourselves from May of 2013 back to also May of 1984 in Fort Worth, Texas, the day after Kerry Von Erich has climbed the mountain and finally won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair on his the commemorative show of his brother David, who unfortunately passed away recently in Japan. So this was sort of the big David Von Erich memorial show, and Kerry got the beautiful big moment.
And by recently, you meant in time of the match, not
Not
presently.
no. But so this is I didn't actually know this initially when I watched it, but this actually occurred the day after that massive show at Texas Stadium, I think, when he won the title. So this was his first ever defense in the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum against his one of his arch rivals with the great fabulous Freebirds versus Von Erich brothers feud that was red hot at this time, against Terry Bam Bam Gordy. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried when I was like, after I ended up watching this match and loving it so much that it became the match of the week, I was worried, are people just going to think I'm trying to cash in on the Von Erich's, Iron Claw movie here?
Oh, you son
Well,
of a
that's
bitch. I didn't even realize I've been bamboozled into marketing
That's
for
a
you.
lazy move, Chris. But
Yeah, Chris, actually, before we get into that full match here, I wanted to discuss the link you sent me included some awesome promos from the mix of Kerry. We had Chris Adams, the gentleman himself, and then the
Rip
crippler
Oliver.
Rip.
Yeah,
Is it Rip
yeah,
Oliver?
Portland
Yeah.
Wrestling's own.
I just want to say Rip Oliver looks so much like a mix of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. It's ridiculous. It's like literally those two individuals pressed into one human being, and I love everything
Rip
about
Oliver's
it.
fantastic.
But
if you ever want to watch some old Portland wrestling from back in the day, any of the stuff with like Rip Oliver, Buddy Rose, like Rip Oliver, it was an awesome promo. Also a fantastic wrestler. So good.
What my favorite part, and I was really getting a chuckle out of, unfortunately, the NWA champion we're talking about here. Kerry's promos were so funny because he is just, he's a country boy, and then he called Ted DiBiase Ted DiBiase.
A lot of people did back
and he
in the
said
day,
it
though, dude.
so much.
That was a funny thing that's been lost in the sands of time. You watch any stuff from this time, because I remember I watched a lot of Mid-South back in the day too, like, what's his promotion.
But then Chris Adams said it DiBiase during the whole thing. From what
I remember, people would just alternate. Like, there was no rhyme or reason.
Okay, it just hits when you're, when you grow up on the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. It just hits your ear, just in such a way to hear DiBiase. But Kerry is just hilarious, and he's trying to sell the matches to all these different towns.
This was
so
such
good.
A funny piece
and
of
you
footage.
can hear that they're like different versions of the same promo. Oh yeah,
because
hilarious.
it was almost like this was the tape that got sent around to the different different regions for them to play on their TV. Like, you're not supposed to watch each of them in succession. Like, but
yeah, because it's like the same thing essentially each time.
It's like, all right, I'm coming to Oklahoma and I'm gonna fuck up this guy, and you think you went back with my dad, or our dads used to wrestle and my dad got the best of it. Yeah. Oh man, it was great.
And sometimes Kerry would mess it up. He's like, and then my dad would beat you or something. Like,
what? Man, it was tremendous because it really hammered home.
Yep.
I want to say, like, a big part of the magic of the Von Erichs was they were not like polished. They weren't overproduced. Yep, like, and I think this was a key part of their appeal and the reason why they had such a connection to the fans in Texas, because they felt real. And I think that is so important. Yeah. And like, you might look at this with current eyes or like ears and what you used to from, watching current WWE or AEW, and you'd be like, oh, this promo was terrible. But when you think about it, and the idea that you're seeing these little flubs and not quite right things or whatever, it's almost like that actually gives you a next level of connection to the guy and like a bit more authenticity, I want to say. So as much as there was part of it where you sort of watch it and you kind of giggle and you're like, oh man, that was not very good, I do think that was weirdly part of their appeal, if you know what I mean.
It's charming. Like when Kerry's like, I'm here for one reason, two reasons.
It was so good.
I was like, love it. Also, Chris Adams hates the Von Erichs more than I think anybody's
Mm-hmm.
hated anybody in these
Mm-hmm.
promos.
Oh, Adam's promo was actually quite good, hey?
Yep.
But the best part was like these promos that were part of this link that I sent to Jeremy for the match had absolutely nothing to do with the match. They just happened to be
Hell
preceding
no.
it.
Hell no. I don't even think Terry Gordy was mentioned in the whole time. Kerry was definitely in there, but they never mentioned Terry.
Also, the video was listed as Kerry Von Erich versus Terry Gordy 1985, when, as we've noted, this one took place in 1984, and Kerry was only champion for like 3 weeks in May of 1984. So I did have to look back. I was like, wait, am I getting this wrong? Is this right? No, I think it's just mislabeled. But a great piece of footage nonetheless. But man, I did want to say, so what happened here was I watched the Iron Claw movie, as I was raving to you about last time. I was super enthused about it. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of YouTube stuff. I was not expecting that, this stuff was going to necessarily hold up today. But then I watched this match. I was like, oh man, Kerry Von Erich versus Terry Gordy for the NWA Championship. That sounds pretty sick. I watched it with little expectations other than just being like, I'm looking forward to seeing, that sort of Beatles kind of thing of just how insanely over Kerry and the Von Erichs were to these fans. And, I love me some Terry Gordy. So I was just like, I'll just get some enjoyment out of this. Had no expectation that this would honestly be the best match that I watched that week. In the same week that I watched like Danielson versus Okada, I'm pretty sure.
Damn, it's high praise. Yeah, this is a hell of a contest. Both guys were crazy over when they came out. Like people were going literally bananas when Kerry came out, but when Bad Street Atlanta GA starts playing, you're just like, fuck yeah, dude, this song rocks. I forgot how good that song is.
That goes so hard. Like I felt that in my soul when Terry Gordy was coming out, man. That was so great. And the idea that like Michael Hayes actually like wrote that, he was like involved in it with
I think he's singing.
Yeah,
I think
he sings it as well.
Yeah.
Such a good song. And then that was like a big part of the Freebirds, the Freebirds for the longest time they always came out to before the release of Bad Street, they always came out to Freebird by Skinner, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, they're very classic song, so it's hard to compare, but this just like such a banger. And then so I was so excited. I don't know about you, but like big part of my fandom of Kerry was I always thought he had the coolest theme music going with the Tom Sawyer by Rush, which honestly is what got me into Rush and basically like prog music and all that stuff, but not in this one. I don't know whether this was a short-term deal where whilst he was NWA champion, he did not come out to Tom Sawyer, but instead we got some sort of cover of You'll Never Take the Texas Out of Me by Waylon Jennings.
All right. I always thought a good theme, well, everyone thinks this, a good theme song really makes a character, but were the Freebirds the first to really have like a personalized song written for them, about them, sung by them? Like, was that? That's gotta be,
for
right?
sure. And like even before that, when they were coming out to just Freebird by Skinner, I think they were like one of the first wrestling acts to actually come out to music full stop. Like before that
you know what? Yeah, I believe that might be correct. Yeah, it's so weird that you think like it's so much part of the presentation of every character now that at one point, no one did it. Eventually, like somebody goes, hey, is that music playing? Hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
Those guys look really cool coming out to that.
And that's a great example as well of like how ahead of their time World Class was as a promotion at this time in terms of both the music but also the production. Like the actual filming of the matches and lighting and everything was like so far ahead of the game at that point. Like basically, I remember watching. I can't remember whether it was like Ken Mantell talking on one of the original World Class documentary, but he was saying how like WWF jacked so much of their shit from World Class's production, so very ahead of the game.
Yes, indeedy.
But man, the crowd here, they quite liked Kerry coming out to this song. I was ready, like I was saying, to like just see Kerry like looking like a rock star, but still, like it somehow over delivered on what I was expecting, like with how much this crowd fucking loved Kerry.
Hey, that's probably gonna happen a lot here. No, yeah, for sure, man. You can't put down a Von Erich in his own area. And then fucking A, dude, the guy's ripped. He's wearing a jacket, it's got his dead brother's name on the back. Like, how could they not love this
Yeah.
guy? Like, yeah. Kerry Von Erich, you're a god.
And like, dude, I was going to mention this later on, but did you notice in the crowd just like the amount of like women there were? Like, it was like 90% women.
It was Beatles level of screaming in the crowd at points when Kerry would make comebacks or something. The girls were getting bananas, and the boys were getting a little wild too. They were out there, dude.
That might have made them
They'd be
question something about himself. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, Kerry Von Erich, like I said, was ripped. The modern day warrior. Like, there was the guy had never missed a day in the gym in his life.
And
I
his
imagine.
dad probably had him on steroids from like the age of 6. So.
Yeah, all the Von Erichs were just in good shape, but Kerry was like next level. That's why people probably remember at one point they got confused and thought Kerry came in and became the new Ultimate Warrior. Like that became a rumor. I think that has to do with his modern day warrior name. Like they probably just like, oh, it's the Warrior is now the Warrior.
Yeah, these are really the two warriors of wrestling at the time. Because I mean, Ultimate Warrior was in World Class as the Dingo Warrior, which I think is very underrated gimmick and name.
It's a hilarious name, like, but not necessarily hilarious. I mean, just by funny, just a great, ridiculous wrestling.
I never ever heard an actual explanation of why he was the Dingo Warrior. Did someone like? Because you know, it's the Dingo. That is an Australian wild dog. I mean, maybe it was from that. Do you remember the news story about the dingo running away with that woman's baby?
Yeah, that ended up being true. Like it legitimately happened. Everyone's like, "You're a liar," and then they found the baby's coat in a dingo den.
Yeah. I don't ever remember hearing how that worked out. But yeah, just wild.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older, so yeah. Back in the day, Chris, we over here in America, we were obsessed with Australia for some reason. It was for a minute there, we loved everything about Australia. Good day, mate. Shrimps on the Barbie, Crocodile Dundee. We loved it.
Dundee.
I don't know what happened.
Great. But did that check out? Was this timing of the dingo baby situation? Is that perhaps where the Dingo Warrior came from?
It might be. I don't know. It might be before that. Yeah, I think it might be well before that. That'd be so fucked up for him to choose. Yeah, I'm fighting for all the dingoes.
Maybe because
they're getting a bad rap down here in Australia.
I mean, he was a big baby face, so perhaps he was fighting. He was saving the babies from the dingoes. Maybe that's why he was the Dingo Warrior.
That's so funny. I'm a warrior against dingoes.
I'm very proud of that sidebar.
I love it.
Back to the match. I want to put over the commentator for this one.
Running the booth by himself and doing a great job.
Yeah, Mark Lawrence. He was the one of the lead commentators at the time, other than of course Bill Mercer. But Mark Lawrence took this one on his own, and my gosh, just what an amazing like old-timey sports broadcaster whole like vibe. To me, he's everything that I think you could possibly want out of a professional wrestling commentator.
Yep, I actually was listening. I'm like, I need to take notes, man. Apply some of this to my trade. Yeah, and also actually the whole presentation just had a real sportsy feel. Like the way it was the audio was recorded. It sounded really good. Like the ring announcer, he sounded
Mm-hmm.
tremendous and very classic ring announcer voice. But yeah, the announcer guy, no fluff. He just, doing commentary, very casual, not going into too much detail, just saying, hey, he picked him up, threw him over there. Yeah, but good commentary, not just like back in the day. How big is this guy?
and he did a great job as well of like coloring it out, of like referencing, the famous feud between the Von Erich brothers and the Freebirds, and
Yep.
at the start of it with Michael Hayes slamming Kerry's head with the door. I thought he did such a great job, but man, the bit where like the wrestling gets going and they just start like this great lock up, and it just from the get-go I was like so drawn in. And I don't know whether it's again sort of being transported back to this sort of like electric time in wrestling history, or again what you were saying about like the really great like production all round. It looked great, it sounded great. But
Yep.
man, there was something about it that just from the time that bell went, and just like the crowd and everything, I was just like, man, I wish I could have been a young man in Texas at this point. Hey,
Yeah, it was just like a simple, straightforward like lock up and then a power into the corner, but everyone was like, the crowd was really into everything, and it's all the simple things that honestly they could still work if people work them right, but just getting things over slowly and not too much dramaticism. Like Kerry, he is really dramatic in the way he reacts, but it's almost the animation makes it so much more the fans can sink their teeth into it more because Kerry's like whipping his body all around with arm
oh
wrist
man,
locks. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words. Yeah.
so good. And I think there's some that's basically this whole match. A lot of it is like in a way, admittedly, like quite basic. But like basic where every little thing is done so well and they get the absolute most out of everything they do, and like the selling and the moments between and like the lead up, and yeah, Kerry's like body language and stuff, but Terry Gordy's as well. Like, dude, his
He's
weird little
hilarious.
like gyrations and cells and stuff. Like there's a bit, so the first part that blew my mind, okay, I don't know if you have a note about this same one as well. But the first bit is where Gordy's got on top. Gordy's like driving Kerry into the turnbuckle, goes for it again. Kerry gets the boot up to block the turnbuckle with his foot, swings it around,
Yep.
drives like Terry Gordy's head into the turnbuckle, I think a bunch of times. And then Terry Gordy ends up taking this amazing, enormous bump and has like just does like the best sell job to this, but then like it's almost like a Terry Funk one where he's all sort of bewildered, but then he gets the dukes up and he's like, I'm still alright, I'm still alright. Fuck, tremendous.
Yes, that was tremendous. That's what I mean by him like not taking the big goofy bumps where it's like a guy his size, it makes it even more hilarious and like, wow, like he got his ass rocked if he's flying around like that. Yeah, Kerry and Terry. I'm gonna fuck it up every fucking no. Terry Terry is great at that. There's a couple moments where he does some really wild bumping around. Yeah, it's good stuff. He's definitely underappreciated by most wrestling fans these days.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had the amazing run in Japan. Like I think a lot of people see Terry Gordy as as one of the greatest gaijins ever. I mean, there's obviously his team with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, like one of the Miracle Violence connection, one of the greatest gaijin tag teams in the history of all Japan Pro Wrestling and Japanese wrestling in general. But it just blows me away how good he was at such a young age. Like at this match, dude, Terry Gordy was 23 years old.
That's wild.
And like
That is wild.
he is honestly like at a level to where he is better than most people you see like 20 years in. It was insane.
That's I had no idea. I would have said the guy's in his 30s or something. That's wild. But when we were talking about like the really simple stuff, there was actually Terry Gordy had Kerry in the abdominal stretch, and then Kerry, after a long time, reversed it, and the people in the crowd went bananas for a reversal of an abdominal
Oh,
stretch, dude. I mean, it's crazy. Like it would work these days. Like if people worked it up
yeah.
enough, he's heading there forever, and then they reverse it. Yeah, people
And
would pop.
also, like, because that was probably my favorite match moment of the whole match. Just like how insane a level of pop it was when Kerry reversed this abdominal stretch, between like how great Kerry was at selling it and selling the pain and doing that sort of like, you know, that almost like contrived like reach out to the fans for them to, you know, like support him to get out
I
of
need
it.
your love. I need your
It was
love.
so good, dude. And like again, that like Beatles mania kind of thing where there was just like he counted this abdominal stretch and there was fucking screams, man. And then not only did he do that, but this was my official favorite moment in the match. And again, the reason why the illustration was what it was, but where Kerry reaches his hand up, he makes the claw,
Oh
he
yeah.
looks to the crowd. This place is going insane. He finally locks on the abdominal iron claw. And dude, like screams, fucking screams.
I loved it. And the audio in this place, like you said, the screaming is Beatles level. The girls are growing bananas, throwing babies in the air, uh, and then the way Terry is selling it, like he's like, "Oh my god, the Iron Claw." Nowadays, people would laugh. You know, what I mean, like that's what you're trying to get over. But how much people believe this move would murder a
I
motherfucker?
mean, it makes sense, man, especially like to Texas and like as much as like as Fritz got that move over for like all those years in the lead
Yeah.
up when he was this vicious Nazi heel and then he like somehow traversed that to become like the most beloved family in all of Texas.
We might have to consider that something.
Maybe. Man, but then yeah, the him teaching that Iron Claw to each one of his boys and them like doing hand exercises on like fucking great like bags of oats and shit. Like, man,
I
so
popped real
good.
big when the Iron Claw came out. I was like, "Oh shit, Iron Claw!"
Rightfully so. Oh man, like after it, there is like one of the greatest crowd shots I've ever seen in my life. Just this like pan over these like again, like 80-90% women just jumping up and down, losing their shit. And it's also like so beautiful because it like captures this moment in time of like 1984 Fort Worth. And like the fashion and the hairstyles and everything, these women that are just jumping up and down, and then one of them, I don't know if this caught your eye.
Yep, yeah, 100%. I was gonna say the one who was like so concerned about what was going on. She was like, "Oh my god, somebody might be dead from the Iron
You know
Claw."
what? I was like so fascinated by this. She just had such a look of concern on her face that I was like, what? And then I had a thought. I'm like, is this like Kerry's girlfriend, maybe? Who he hasn't actually smartened up to like wrestling? And I looked at photos, dude, of the wife of Kerry's. I think it's the same woman.
Mhm. Wow, that's hilarious. Yeah, and she stood out so much because I was everyone in the crowd was going crazy except for this one lady wearing red, just really, really
Yeah, just
concerned.
the
So
biggest
good.
eyes of just like holding her face, like, oh man.
And then what came up after that for the match itself, it started putting over Terry Gordy and his Oriental
Oh my
Spike,
gosh.
which is hilarious to me. And I was kind of thinking about it. Just imagine like Terry pitching this to the other guys, like, "All right, I'm gonna tell everyone I went to the Orient and I learned this fucking spike with my thumb, and it's gonna be crazy over." And everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, that's good, man. That is
Oh,
good."
the way they hyped this up was the best thing I've ever seen. And I guess like at this point, Terry Gordy had already been working tours of Japan, probably part of the reason why he was like so great at such a young age. But the way they described
Yeah,
it as like taught to him in the mountains of the Orient.
of the Orient. So good. I love. Yeah. And he sold it like I said earlier, there's not a lot of fluff, more meaning like he's not trying to get himself over with commentary. He's just like in the mountains of the Orient, like straightforward, not overly dramatic. It's
I
so
loved it,
good.
dude. And like, also shout out to the great old man referee in this match, Bronco Lovich.
That's my note. Is he's so chill. He's like, the way he's doing his 3 counts is like standing on one knee and just going 1, 2. Nope. Get up, guys. Yeah, Bronco Lubick. Oh, what a guy. What a lad.
Man, he was like just had such a straight face through all of this. It was tremendous. He was just like, all right, yep, I've been through this before, and it was so great. But apparently he was a former very famous professional wrestler himself of Hungarian origin.
Makes sense with that hairstyle. His hair was great, man.
Dude. When I'm that age, I would kill to have hair that good.
I'm unfortunately out of luck in that department. I also there's more shots of the crowd around this time, and the majority of these people probably thought this was fucking real. Like the way I'm looking at these people, like the majority probably think it's real. Like I'm sure there's some in there who still enjoy it because it's a show, but I'm sure the majority of those people in that crowd thought this was a real
You know what
contest.
I think the magic of is, dude, like I don't even necessarily.
Not that I'm making fun of them by any means.
Like I don't even necessarily think it's like that they thought it was real, but it was the environment that you're in. And when you have that level of like love for someone, like they're such a rock star, and then everyone around you is like, I spoke a little bit on the last artist interview I did with this about trying to put down the magic of what professional wrestling is, and the idea of when you're there live, like everyone's sort of like committing to that suspension of disbelief kind of thing. And we're saying it's something about like the environment, even if like your brain tells you that, hey, this isn't real, but the environment and everyone around you and that sort of like, I don't want to like say like sheep mentality, but you know, that sort of like following what everyone else does as humans, we kind of do. I think that's what this was, man. Like it was such a high level of that. And that was like, to me, so much of the magic of professional wrestling, you know?
I definitely believe that is a lot of the case in current days, because everyone's commitment to the bit that wrestling is, or it's kind of like improv. Everyone is yes-anding this whole concept. But I don't know, man. Some of the people in the crowd looked so passionate that this was life-shattering if Kerry Von Erich lost this title.
My gosh. Like, you might not believe in professional wrestling, but you believe in Kerry Von Erich. He is our son that's won the world title, and damn it, he's not going to lose it on his first night.
No, sir. I want to again talk about the announcer for a moment, because there was a particular moment on commentary when Gordy is going to put this pile driver on, and the referee goes, "Is this going to be a pile driver? I hope not." And then, sure enough, the next fucking thing is a pile driver. I was like, yes, I hope not.
It was such a good pile driver, and it was what did the commentator call it after he said like the most devastating move in professional wrestling, which I just love so much. He was such a good pile driver. Yeah.
And then the commentator also said something that was wild that I've never heard before in my entire life. He called Kerry doing a clothesline royale.
Oh man, I had a note about this. I popped so much when I heard clothesline royale. Like I just rewatched Pulp Fiction recently, the royale with cheese bit. I was like, fucking
immediately came to my brain. Yes, 100%.
Royale, dude. Someone needs to put that on a shirt. Shit, man. Gordy's strikes as well. Like through this whole thing, this was like really just shouting out to me, like every one of Terry Gordy's strikes were like so damn good and so much better than like anything that I see today. Like between his like bionic elbows, his like sick punches, like his body shots, like every little thing that he was doing, man, so good.
Yeah, guy knows how to move, man. And like I said, incredibly underrated. I'm sure everyone loved his run as the Executioner in the WWE. Do you remember when they did that?
I do, but I mean that was kind of like a bit sad, because that was after his sort of brain was
I was trying to bring some levity. Sorry.
No. But I mean, I think that run was super interesting because it's like, and he had the similar run in ECW, right? Where it was like after his brain was kind of fried and he wasn't all there, but he could still sort of go mechanically, which I think it's even like a compliment to him of like how great he was that even though like, you know, his brain wasn't quite there, he just had like those body mechanics that could still kind of do it. Like so good.
Yeah, you know, brought me down. I was just trying to be funny. This guy's totally out of it, but hey, he can still razzle. Yeah, he was way good, and most big men these days like are too focused on trying to also incorporate high flying stuff, which is fine, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of that, but
I mean, I do love me some Mike Awesome. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, but that's a different kind. That's just like a guy doesn't look as he's trying to be graceful when he's doing it. He's just jumping from things. You know what I mean?
There-
Like when my God got up to the top rope and just like you're like, oh man, he's going to die, and he's taking somebody with
I
him.
love
Fucking
it so
A.
much. Same with like some of those Vader moonsaults, man. Just some of the wildest shit you ever
Yeah.
see. But there was a moment in this one, like I want to say Terry Gordy could bloody well move. There was a few
Hell yeah.
like running big man crossbodies that he did that were one of the sickest things I've ever seen. It was just like
Crushed
he
him.
looked like he did it like so wild and out of control that he just looked like he murdered Kerry on it. It was, and he like when he somehow generates like a speed like Terry Gordy when he was like running to where you just like you don't expect a big man. It's almost like he got going so fast. It was almost like the speed of like a truck or something, and it's just wild to see. I reckon in the conversation of like best big men wrestlers, I mean, you've obviously got Bam Bam and Vader in there. I reckon Terry Gordy is right there.
Oh yeah, number 3 more than likely. I mean, like, unless people are going back to old school Andre, that's like, but that's a whole different animal. That's a super
Yeah.
heavyweight.
Yeah, big man.
Do you see? Did you see GCW had a guy on recently called the American Giant?
I'm not familiar with this. No.
Oh my god, I guess he is an old wrestler that the guys at GCW just found and got him. You should take a look at him. He looks like Kramer, but he's like 7 foot tall or something. It's
I'm very
wild.
intrigued.
Yeah, the American Giant, and he's gonna be in the clusterfuck for GCW for Joey Janela's spring break. So, yeah, man, look forward to seeing the American
Wow.
Giant.
Yeah, that sounds great. Man, I want to, as much as I'm just praising Terry Gordy in this right now, also like shout out for how great Kerry was through
Sure.
so much of this. Again, like all of these little things, but his strikes, man, were all like really like on point and good. And a lot of people sort of like make out that Kerry was this kind of like roided up cokehead that had to be led by the nose. Like if you listen to much of like Flair's accounts of the matches with Kerry, and to be honest, he probably was on a lot of cocaine for a lot amount of them.
Well, you could hear a lot of talking in this match. You could actually hear some of the conversing, as far as I could tell, between Terry and Kerry. Like I couldn't audibly understand what they were saying, but it did seem like they were communicating.
Yeah, but they were doing it in a good way. Like I didn't think it was too obvious.
No.
Yeah, I definitely think I cottoned onto that a little bit. But man, every little bit of like Kerry's like selling, and just like to me, he is the definition of like good or like great instincts in a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's just certain things that can't be taught, and like to me, Kerry was just perfect for that in terms of those like knowing how to like emote and to get the crowd in and to again get like the most you possibly can out of the littlest thing. And man, he had a beautiful drop kick as well.
Oh yeah, pinpoint. And yeah, the strikes are good. They actually made me miss. There's not really a lot of people who do traditional work punches. More people throw forearms nowadays. Like that's pretty much what everyone does. But yeah, both guys had some great punches. Like they looked good.
Yeah.
They looked real. Like they're They may have been connecting. I don't know. More than likely not, because they were not trying to murder each other. But hey,
I
it
wouldn't be
looked good.
surprised if they were fucking each other up because some of these punches look great. There's a bit when Terry got like on top of him. I mean, no, I fucked it up. I did it myself. When Kerry got on top of Terry Gordy, and he was just like nailing him, like, you know, those like mounted punches to the face that
Yeah,
even.
the crowd
Oh
was
my
loving
gosh, that
that.
was like probably one of the highest points of the match. But like even you look back in the day of like, you know, Austin at his peak, and he would do those quite a bit. And you know, it was like you'd hear stories of like Austin's punches just like fucking cleaning people's clocks. But most of the time, to be honest, they didn't necessarily always look the most convincing. These, dude, every single one was like fucking perfect, on point. I had so much respect for seeing like punches like to a downed opponent like that were like so good, every single one.
Agreed. And the fans just loved him because they're like, "Oh man, our guy is beating the tar out of this big bastard."
and like I think there was points as well that again by like today's standards you'd probably say it was like maybe a little sloppy kind of thing, I guess. But to me this like just added to it so much because again like getting back to that previous match we were talking about, it just had like such a great sense of like struggle. Like it didn't feel like they were working together necessarily, which I just loved.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Kerry Von Erich threw one of the craziest looking elbow drops that I've ever seen,
Oh, how wild was it?
dude. And like, it's one of those ones where like he was so straight out, he probably might hurt himself more than he hurt Bam Bam.
Oh man, and that how about when he was in the sleeper? And that was when Mark Lawrence was going on about, oh, he's good, you know, anytime gonna get that Oriental spike.
Oh
And
yeah,
this is when Kerry to me had one of the greatest fire ups like up out of like the sleeper hold that I've ever seen. Like the way he was just kind of like juking and like slowly like getting the crowd into it and like jiving his like fists up almost like he was doing some weird like Dusty Rhodes dance kind of thing. Oh, so sick.
well, you don't want to mess with the Oriental spike, man. And once, if you ever get hit with it, you know, you got to do some crazy gyrations and get the crowd behind
Yeah.
it. That's just professional
And
wrestling.
then that gives you the adrenaline to get out of it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's legit.
I just the hilarious thing is like imagining Terry Gordy or the guy from the Freebirds like, yeah, man, you should use something called the Oriental spike. Like, just so funny to
And
me.
I love like thinking about that from the perspective of like your average Texan, you know, in Dallas or San
Yeah,
Antonio or wherever at this time, 1984. It's like, oh, those damn Orientals,
they're so
yeah,
mysterious.
and they got their kung fu. We don't want to mess around with that.
It's so crazy. Uh, I think they showed a clip of like the next match. I think the missing link and Tijo Khan were the other guys. I'm like, man, they did some crazy ass characters.
Oh, so great. Yeah. Oh, Killer Khan, man. So
Killer
good.
Khan, yeah. Oh
The
man.
side note, but there's absolutely, you ever watched that Killer Khan Terry Gordy match?
Uh-uh.
Oh, dude, this is like one of the most wild bloodbaths you've ever seen. I highly would recommend that. That was actually in the way
It's
of,
in the books.
yeah, it's in the Way of the Blade, One of the Blade book. I originally got onto it because when Phil sent me the link for the book, and I was just like awestruck by how great this was. Again, just Terry Gordy being fucking incredible.
That's awesome.
But apparently, Killer Khan just passed away recently.
What?
Yeah, weird timing there, but
Oh
I think he
shit.
made it to a pretty decent age, so not too bad.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Not too much of a downer there, right?
Oh, back to that elbow drop. Wasn't that elbow drop crazy?
Yeah, let's go back to the elbow drop. But man, and then I don't know if it was before or after that, when he was like he finally actually locked on the full proper iron claw when he was in that full mount. And again, crowd just going so insane. I don't know what it is, but there's something so pleasing about seeing someone just having a crowd erupt for something so simple. It was just beautiful.
100%. But amazing ring awareness here by Terry Gordy getting that bottom rope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's like, get off now. The claw's done. You can't do it no more. I just think it'd be at one point they got really close on the close up of the claw, and it almost looked like he wasn't clawing him too much. You know, I got a little disappointed. He should have really pressed it into the face. Not enough claw, Chris.
What do you want? You want him to be like drawing blood from like crushing his skull? So
Imagine.
Hard?
It would have been the best.
That was Fritz's thing for a long time. He'd get on the claw and he'd have the guy like blade right before he put the claw on. So then it looks like he's drawing blood through the iron claw.
Oh, that's awesome. I was like, how could they gimmick that? They're gonna have to put blood capsules on his palm.
Maybe you could like blade your own fingers.
Oh my goodness, that'd be the worst.
Talk about a paper cut. Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
Man, that was actually honestly one of the worst things from like my wrestling days from whenever I'd like blade. And I did a few big gnarly ones. But people don't talk about razor blades are really sharp. And for someone that's I cut my fingers so much when I was fumbling around with this razor blade back in the day, dude.
I bet. Fucking maniacs.
Man, but then the finish for this one was so damn great. And it's like, again, so simple, but like the way they lead up to it, and Terry Gordy's going for this big crossbody off the top, and then Kerry does the backwards roll through and then just like reaps him for this pin. And again, the crowd just explodes. I was just like, this is just
such a simple finish.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I did not expect that to be the end because I very rarely see roll-ups from crossbodies turned into the finish of a match. So it like actually I was like, whoa, it's over. That was sudden, awesome.
And it had a great lead up to that with the bit where Terry goes for his big, famed tornado punch. And then that was when I think Terry Gordy ducked it and got him with something to lead up to him going into that. But I just thought that the whole finishing stretch was so great and like different to all of the near falls and kind of thing that we're accustomed to today. But again, weirdly just like so refreshing, I guess.
Oh, agreed. Nowadays they would have to do 3 of those and then maybe go for it. But then somebody would slide in with the chair and the referee would not see it. So they drop the chair. It's all overwrought nowadays. This is just beautiful and simple. And you mentioned the discus punch. A commentator guy, he mentioned how Kerry was a discus, or in high school was a great discus player.
He was.
So that's why he adopted the discus. I know it's just awesome that they made the discus punch part of his repertoire.
How great is that?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he apparently almost went to the Olympics for discus.
Yeah. Crazy shit.
Amazing. Man, so much to love about this. If anyone ever, from watching the Iron Claw has been thinking, maybe I should check out a little bit of World Class, dude, do yourself a favor. It's like some of the best shit. And like, you might think, oh, it's going to be old and hokey and not live up to today's standards. But at least from me watching this, I was like, this is so much better in a lot of ways than current stuff. Such a breath of fresh air. I loved it.
I loved it as well. Yeah, I like how they just, like at the very beginning, it's just simple stuff that people were. It might have been the crowd loving it so much that made me get into it. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then Kerry gets the big win. He successfully gets his first title defense in the books. Crowd goes wild. And then, I don't know if you noticed this, but like, Terry Gordy's like selling of like outrage that he got caught on that pin in the background while Kerry is celebrating was one of the best things ever.
He's like, no, I was that close.
Oh man, yeah. I to be honest, I was like a little bit unsure of what you would think of this match, because generally when I send you this stuff, you always at the end of the day just dig great wrestling. So I assume that would be the way to probably go, but this is a little bit different from the stuff we'd normally watch. So I was honestly intrigued to see what you thought, and like I said, I didn't really know how familiar you were with World Class either. So, dude, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of notes on this one because I was watching it so much. And it wasn't like nothing terribly crazy was going on. It was just good, logical storytelling and wrestling. So it's hard to pinpoint incredible moments. There's definitely things that stood out, but I was just enjoyed it. Really.
Yeah.
As where the first match, there's just so much that goes on and so many transitions. You're like so many different things you can point out. Whereas this is just traditional, classic, good wrestling by two guys who are tremendous at the craft.
Yeah, and two again complete polar opposite matches in that sense, but just both great in their own right in completely different ways. But at the end of the day, you've still got just great professional wrestling going on, and I think that's what I really love about this shit. Just the kind of the amount of variety that you can get.
Oh yeah, and like I've always said, it's the greatest art form outside of ska music. That's what wrestling is. It's ska music and wrestling, the two great art forms.
Especially in terms of just bringing complete pure joy.
Yeah, man. Have you heard ska music, guys? It's great.
There's no way to see live ska music and not be having a great time.
It's true. Like unless you just hate horns, then I understand. I get it. But yeah, ska is a good time, and professional wrestling maybe even better.
Maybe we could, maybe that is what the appeal of El Generico was. The idea that he brought in ska music, brought these beautiful art forms together.
Thank you, El Generico. I wonder, oh, poor guy in his orphanage.
Oh, I'm sure he's doing great things for those Tijuana orphans. Beautiful. Oh, dude, this was so much fun. I really like this weird combination of matches.
Might be the way to go in the future, potentially.
Yeah, I think so. Especially when I have the artist interview happen, and I think we got a good approach going forward here. But thank you so much for joining, my friend. Do you have any plugs you'd like to throw out there?
Sure. If you enjoy my banter or want to see my stupid jokes or memes I make on Facebook and Twitter and all that jazz, Facebook, I'm Jeremy Tate, if you want to say hello. Instagram, Twitter, all those other ones, it's at Jaims Vanderbeek, Jaims Vanderbeek. And yeah, also, if you want to buy some of my t-shirts, I do crazy t-shirt designs, pentagonzo.com. That's pentagonzo.com. And lastly, I'd like to promote SOS Pro Wrestling on IWTV. I do commentary with my buddy Cody Von Whistler. We're a wacky island adventure type of wrestling show. I know, cliche. But check us out. We got all kinds of fun stuff. We got wrestling monkeys. We got wrestling octopus. We now got a wrestling half man, half shark. It's nuts. Come check us out.
I want to give a special shout out. You should definitely follow Senor Vanderbeek on the Twitter, because that Zoidberg Goldberg mashup meme that you did is one of the best, freakiest things I have ever seen.
Yeah, that one was fun. I don't know why it took me so long to even think of that one, but just the other day I was like, Zoidberg, how red can I get Goldberg? It worked out pretty good.
Fantastic stuff.
Oh, you can also see me troll all of Twitter by pretending that WWE is promoting ex-AEW stars by putting CM Punk and Cody Rhodes in the last two of them.
That was so good.
Oh, I got so many different responses. Like some people thought I was real and they hated me for it, or people who thought I was real and agreed and elaborated on my points. I'm like, oh no, I didn't mean it at all, friends.
Sometimes my favorite thing on Twitter is the people that just don't quite understand the concept of sarcasm.
Yep.
It's just never gets old.
And then you tell them you're being sarcastic, and then they don't believe you. I'm like, well, which way is it, guy? Come on. Am I serious or am I joking?
Oh, well, we'll make sure to follow Mr. Jaims Vanderbeek there for all of that goodness. You can also follow me at Chris Things. You'll get to hear all the things about the show. You can also follow me at Chris Things on the Instagram, where you'll see more of my art things and all of the key updates and new things that I have available, such as the brand new bootleg Mexican wrestling Batman and Robin t-shirt that I launched.
Choice. That's a choice design. Pretty nice.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the share as well. I appreciate that. A lot of fun stuff to be had and seen, so check that out. christhings.com.au is the best place for you to procure these items if you'd be so inclined. So you get yourself a little shirt, get yourself a little Prinsky, or hit me up if any of this stuff seems good and you have a wacky idea of your own, you'd like a commission. Well, gee willikers, you
offer such things.
I do offer such things. You can swing me a little old message and you can say, hey, Chris, I would like you to do my dog, giving Buff Bagwell a Hurricane Rana. And I'll be like, yeah, let's make that happen.
Oh, man, I hope Scotty Riggs doesn't show up and beat up the dog.
Maybe Scotty Riggs can be sitting sad in the corner looking like with a look of sad desperation for his American Males tag partner.
Oh, my goodness. That would be so good.
But we can make these things happen, so please hit me up. I think that'd be a lovely, lovely time. I also want to do a big shout out to the great team at Social Suplex. You can check out socialsuplex.com. They give me the opportunity to run this fun little wrestling art podcast that we have here. And you can also check out a bunch of their other wrestling podcasts, from One Nation Radio to Keeping It Strong Style, their New Japan podcast, variety of other stuff, so check that out. But lastly, thank you so much to you, listener. I appreciate your putting us in your ear holes every one of these shows, taking the time. I just I really appreciate the support.
It's waxy in here.
Yeah, it's
so waxy.
It's so hairy as well. Oh.
Ooh.
Hairy, but in a nice way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are some attractive ear holes that I'm in right now.
Whoa, it's so spacious.
If I had a ear hole fucking kink, this would be the ones I'd be coming for.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah, this is going off the rails, guys. We need to shut this down.
Adios, everyone.
Do the Hammerlock. I do the Hammerlock. Do the Hammerlock, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the Hammerlock. I do the Hammerlock. Everybody's doing it. Do the eye gouge. Yeah, do the eye gouge. Do the eye gouge, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the eye gouge. I do the eye gouge. Everybody's doing it. Okay, you turkey nuts.
Oh boy,
That was
That-
good. Enjoyable.
that was a fun time, my friend. I really appreciate this.
Indeed.